In the news tonight, West yet to hit a peak, warns Health Ministry. Fiji to bring the change needed, says Prime Minister. And tourism plans laid out.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Edwin Nana.
Bulawanaka, Fiji. The Ministry of Health is seeing increasing cases in the Western Division with evidence of widespread community transmission. However, Permanent Secretary Dr. James Fong believes they have succeeded in ensuring the peak does not coincide with that of the Central Division. Dr. Fong says they are identifying severe patients at an earlier stage to ensure they get access to better care and facilities. Kritika Kumar reports.
The Ministry of Health believes the transmission in the Central Division is currently at its peak.
The Delta one is more transmissible, so the peak will be generally more. Therefore, you cannot model our peak, but personally we feel that our peak, we are sitting at the peak for the Central Division.
The Ministry of Health has also noted an increasing trend of deaths in the West.
That we have succeeded in ensuring that the peak in the Western Division will not coincide too much with the peak in the Central Division. So that's allowed us to mobilize resources from the Central Division to the Western Division.
Minister for Health Dr. Efremi Wangai Nambete says the daily statistics reveal increasing hospitalization in the West, which is a concern for the ministry.
And we're also beginning to see a rise in the Western Division, which continues to record increasing number of cases every day.
Fiji last month recorded the highest daily toll of 1,405 cases. Despite recording cases in the triple digit in the past few weeks, this does not truly reflect the widespread transmission. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
Prime Minister Voreqe Bainimarama has assured that Fiji's chairmanship of the Pacific Island Forum will bring about the change the region deserves. While speaking on the motion to ratify the 2005 agreement establishing the Pacific Island Forum, Bainimarama says Fiji has a duty of care to other Pacific Island states. Apanisa Wangairandovo reports the agreement recognizes the forum as an international organization and the Pacific as a region of peace, harmony, security and economic prosperity where people can all lead free and worthwhile lives.
Fiji? Prime Minister Voreqe Bainimarama says Fiji remains a key player in the region and it will do its best in spearheading the forum.
Fiji was suspended from the forum, a decision the Pacific regretted. This is something that through our leadership we will not allow any other country to go through.
Bainimarama says Fiji will not shy away from holding accountable regional organizations so long they are kept on track.
USP and regionalism, Mr. Speaker, even though we are committed to the operation of regional organizations, we also need to keep them accountable. It is a position that we have always maintained in regional discussions.
The Prime Minister today is saying he did not hold elections in 2009 as part of his commitment to the forum because he wanted a new constitution for all Fijians.
Now that we are going in to ratify this, why did Fiji did not commit itself to holding the general election in March 2009, as recommended?
We all know, Mr. Speaker, why we didn't have the election, as everybody been harping about, why we didn't have the election in 2009. We all know why. Here, this is why. Remember this? Remember this, the one that was on your table the first day you were here.
Bainimarama told Parliament regional leaders have realized the many challenges faced in the region as he highlighted that the Pacific Way will continue to be a means of regional engagement and cooperation. The motion was passed. Apinisongarndobu, FBC News.
A reopening framework has been developed by the Tourism Ministry to be used once international travel resumes. The framework includes minimizing risk to keep both tourists and Fijians safe and ease restrictions to maintain competitiveness.
The COVID Risk Mitigation Task Force is working behind the scenes to test the conditions for international travel as the aim is to safely open our borders by December.
The framework will essentially look at national and individual factors that determine eligibility to travel to Fiji. National factors will largely focus on acceptable test positivity and vaccination rates. as well as any new variant of concern.
We should change the narrative and not focus anymore on herd immunity, but go for total immunization of the entire country. And we should try and achieve that by December this year.
Koya adds they're exploring all options and refining their criteria to determine low, moderate and high-risk countries, given the evolving nature of COVID-19 and its variants. Comprehensive market surveys are also being done to strategize Fiji's re-entry.
We are pleased to share that Fiji is still at the top of most people's mind as a favored leisure destination in our key markets such as Australia, New Zealand, and the United States of America and Canada.
Majority of the operators are reporting 100% vaccination status and putting in policies to ensure their suppliers and contractors are fully vaccinated as well. Ritika Pratap, FBC News.
The Fiji Police Force is urging people in Bua to support their efforts by adhering to the new measures announced by the Health Ministry for the Nambowalu area. Police officers are manning 4 checkpoints and monitoring movement into and out of Nambowalu, and this will continue for 14 days. The containment area, as announced, extends from Raralevoidake to Wainisevu and along the coast of Nambowalu village. The 2 checkpoints maintained in the containment zone are opposite the Nambowalu market, controlling movement into and the main road, and at Raralevoidake past Nambowalu village towards Wainunu. 2 more checkpoints are outside of the containment zone, and they act as buffer zones where decontamination of vehicles is carried out when entering and exiting the area. Movement in and out of the containment area is restricted to essential services and access to groceries and the post office. Yesterday, the new Divisional Police Commissioner North SSP Tomasi Mbulimaimbau visited the checkpoints to see the operations conducted by officers on the ground. To our COVID-19 update for tonight, Fiji recorded 590 new COVID-19 infections for the period ending 8 a.m. yesterday. 420 cases were from the Western Division and 170 from the Central. The Health Ministry also recorded 11 new COVID-19 deaths for the period between August 13th and 15th. 5 deaths were from the Central Division and 6 from the Western Division. Fiji has recorded 41,107 cases since April this year. There are now 21,754 active cases in isolation, with 18,795 recoveries in total. The COVID death toll stands at 405. The vaccination campaign continues. As of yesterday, 535,844 people, or 91.3% of the population, have received their first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. 216,494 people, or 36.9%, have received the second. The 5 most vaccinated areas are Mba, Rewa, Nanunga and Naitasiri, which have achieved 100% first jab administered. Next is Nandi. An 82-year-old Danielle Tavele of Chadwick Road, Nagasi, is now fully vaccinated. Have you vaccinated yet? Up ahead, young Fijians talk about sacrifices, and Somo women face challenges. Welcome back. The final draft of the revised Town Planning Act has been submitted to the Office of the Solicitor General for legal vetting. While providing an update on the review of the town planning laws, Local Government Minister Pramila Kumar says the new law, once passed, will remove a number of issues faced by developers and investors. Pranita Prakash reports.
The Local Government Ministry will strengthen support to the municipal councils to ensure that the enforcement teams are fully resourced to curb illegal developments.
It is therefore the responsibility of municipal councils to ensure that developments are not located in areas or zones where it can create public health problems, disturbance and nuisance, to people in the surrounding areas due to the impact of its operation.
There have also been cases where buildings have not been constructed as per the approved plans and are non-compliant.
The Ministry has noted in recent years that a high number of substandard building application has been received by municipal councils.
Opposition MP Pioti Konduandua says there is only talk but no action.
Since 2014, we have been repeatedly told about the review of the Local Government Act whenever we raise the issue of municipal elections.
The Local Government Ministry will be inviting written comments from the public on the draft bill through the Ministry's website and Facebook platform. Pranita Prakash, FBC News.
Young Fijians are making sacrifices to ensure they can financially support themselves and their families during these times. While some have lost their jobs, life is still challenging for those who remain employed. Christiana Uluwai reports.
Young people in the front line are taking fear head-on in order to do what needs to be done to get the pandemic under control.
It has been difficult working in this pandemic because I'm a healthcare worker and it's sad actually. Basically, I would just like this pandemic to end.
Employed individuals are concerned for their friends who have been unemployed and displaced because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Hearing some of the challenges that my friends and colleagues are going through, mental health and financial crisis.
Containment borders have also separated people from their loved ones for months now.
I think it's more than 6 months now I've been away from home ever since the lockdown started, and being away from my family, visit them on the weekends.
Young people are effective contributors to nation building and remain a key stakeholder in maneuvering Fiji out of this public health crisis, which has brought Fiji to its knees. Christiana Uluwai, FBC News.
And the pandemic has affected micro and small enterprises, forcing some to close down. Eleanor Turangavu speaks to women running Nasomora Marama Women's Group Handicraft in Somosomo Tavyuni about the impact of the pandemic on their pearl shell jewelry business.
Like most small businesses, this small handicraft workshop was forced to shut down after the COVID-19 pandemic hit the country last year.
We were not allowed to come and work from here, so our work stopped. We couldn't produce anything at all. We'll only open if someone comes to buy or our shell supplier comes.
The workshop is run by a group of women from Somosomo village, trained specifically on how to create high-quality handmade body ornaments, jewelry and handicraft items from mother pearl shells.
We are grateful to learn how to create these beautiful pieces from what literally is waste.
Their main markets are the hotels on the island, but with no tourists coming due to the current pandemic, there has been no sales.
We have plans. We have some orders to do. But for now, we can't do anything yet due to the COVID-19 restrictions in place.
In the short time the Handicraft Center has been established, it has produced some of the finest and most sought-after items in the Fijian tourism market.
We never knew anything about this until we were taught, and we are glad because it's helping our livelihoods.
The Handicraft Center supports the livelihood of these women, and they are holding out hope the borders will reopen soon so they can get back to business. Eleanor Turangavu, FBC News.
More than 1,000 people in Rotuma have been flocking to vaccination centers for the past few days to receive their first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. District Officer Vatia Vasudha says they've reached 83% of the targeted population who've received their first dose since the beginning of the campaign last week. With ongoing vaccination on Rotuma, the district officer is optimistic that the 100% first dose target will be achieved by Friday. He adds officials are now visiting communities targeting the elderly who are unable to turn up to vaccination venues.
Carry out this awareness, especially to our elderly. The information of this vaccine.
Coming up in world news, new cases emerge in New Zealand. And later in sports, boxing plans resumption of competitions.
With more Fijians getting vaccinated, this has given business operators a glimmer of hope for more trading in the coming months. However, as COVID-19 case numbers continue to fluctuate, businesses and municipalities are working out protocols in order to keep businesses open and keep their workers safe. Lina Rees reports.
Following the introduction of the no jab, no job policy, the Suva City Council has taken a step further to introduce a no jab, no entry concept for its facilities in a bid to keep people safe.
We are progressively introducing it. With the market vendors, it's compulsory now. Now, the other side is the market vendors now are also challenging us. They're saying, look, we're getting jabbed. How about the customers? It's a bit unfair that we have been required to have the jab.
There have also been talks between the SCC and Suva Retailers Association to have the no jab, no entry concept possibly introduced to more businesses in the capital city.
As to our members, we have talked with them, and we are saying come mid-October, we'll be getting a fair picture of how the vaccination is going. But time will come, and we know that if people are not vaccinated, we won't be welcoming them inside the shops as well, because it's important to be vaccinated for the safety of our workers and for our customers as well.
The Suva Retailers Association is hopeful, though, that vaccination numbers will increase to a point by October where this extreme concept will not need to be enforced. Lina Rees, FBC News.
Financial institutions and service providers are being encouraged to use the information from the latest Financial Services Demand-Side Survey report to prepare appropriate products. The 2020 survey report released by the Reserve Bank shows financial inclusion among Fijians has increased to 81% from 64% in 2014. Compared to the 2014 survey, the 2020 survey reported significant financial inclusion progress over the past 5 years across all key indicators. It noted a 17% decline in the number of Fijians excluded from the formal financial sector, which was supported by a 23% growth in the number of Fijian women owning a bank account, and similarly for youths and the self-employed. In addition, an improvement in uptake was noted in other financial inclusion instruments, such as savings, remittance, and mobile money usage. Governor Arif Ali says the information from the survey offers evidence-based inputs to formulate the next 5-year national financial inclusion strategy. Here, the local exchange rates are set early this morning. The Fiji dollar gained against our two major trading partners, the Aussie and Kiwi dollars, but slipped against the other international currencies we cover. Declines across the commodities market today. Crude oil dropped to close at $66 a barrel. Gold dropped a few dollars to $1,787 per ounce. And silver closed down at $23.64 per ounce. And we now join Sharon from HFC Bank to give us the latest figures from the money market.
Good evening. Major focus was on the interest rate announcement by the Reserve Bank of New Zealand today. The central bank surprised the market by maintaining their official cash rate at 0.25% against market expectations of a 25 basis point rate hike. RBNZ policymakers quickly shifted gears after the country was put into a snap lockdown following the detection of new coronavirus cases yesterday. However, in their projections, RBNZ showed their cash rate would reach 0.5% by the end of the year and at least 1.5% by mid-next year. Meanwhile, the US dollar hit a 9-month high against major rivals, riding off the back of safe haven demands. Growing COVID-19 concerns and the political turmoil in Afghanistan led investors to cut exposure to riskier currencies. Next up, the US Federal Reserve will be releasing minutes from its July policy meeting tomorrow. So let's see what impact it will have on our currency basket. But for now, that's all from your HFC Bank. Thank you.
The Ministry of Education, together with the Australian government, are now ready to commence work for a permanent rebuild of destroyed buildings at Lekutu Secondary School. The Australian government, through its Departments of Foreign Affairs and Defence, will build 2 concrete classroom blocks consisting of 3 classrooms each. Australian Defence Force officers are currently under quarantine and will complete isolation over the coming weeks. Work is planned to commence this month till November 2021. After which the personnel will redeploy in 2022 to complete all other works as per the project schedule. Minister for Education Rosie Akbar says the permanent structures will be constructed to withstand Category 5 cyclones, as our government believes in building back better. Akbar acknowledged the Australian government for providing support towards education and our schools' rebuilding phase. And that is the latest from my end, but coming up after the break, never say die attitude for Salu Salu maker. Stay with us.
Mendocino in California is trying to survive one of the most historic droughts ever. The drought is revealing for California that perhaps even more than rainfall, it's money and infrastructure that dictates who has enough water. The COVID-19 pandemic has not affected Salu Salu and Masi creators as orders continue to flood in. Director Pasepa Vengaravi says the idea to set up the business began in 2003 and it continues to flourish. Sanya Nimboila reports.
The Salu Salu and Masi creation was established by woman artisan Pasepa Vengaravi, who made her name during the 2003 art exhibition.
I was one of the women artisans during the art exhibition at the Civic Center during the 2003 South Pacific Games. I won prizes from there, and that was where I came up with an idea to start my own business.
Vengaravi says having her stall destroyed by the flea market fire never let her back, as she tried her best to get back on track.
My business is currently home-based as my stall was burnt down. I am working from home in Kinoya. Sometimes it's a challenge to have my materials delayed due to shipping schedule. Most of my resources are shipped directly from my island home, Salia Nayao, in Laos. The business is helping me put food on the table for my family.
The 50-year-old artisan is urging women to utilize their talents and help their families during this difficult time.
I want to encourage women and men to make use of the resources they have to help out their families. This business is really helping my family buy kerosene, pay water and electricity bills, help with medical consumables when someone is sick at home.
The Salu Salu and Masi creation makes Salu Salu for all occasions and Masi for funeral packages. Sainia Nimboila, FBC News.
An unnamed woman has sued U.S. folk singer-songwriter Bob Dylan, alleging he sexually abused her. She alleges he gave her drugs and alcohol in 1965 when she was 12 years old. And let's join Jamie now for sports.
Again, good evening in sports tonight. Ranranra unsure of World Cup sevens. And Takayawa aims to inspire young judokas. This and more coming up. Well, Semi Ranranra has achieved a lot in both his rugby union and rugby league careers. He says the memory of his Olympic Games gold medal journey will forever remain close to his heart. Many know Ranranra as a Tabiuni man. However, his paternal links are rooted in Nukunuku Lakemba in Laos. His Lao family today hosting the World Rugby Star in Makoi Nasinu. Kuladama has more.
Nothing beats reuniting with your family, but for some, it's the first time to meet one of the world's best.
And then, especially today with the occasion happening today with the family,
something's very special, you know. So, yeah, feel so blessed.
His paternal aunties from Laos decided to acknowledge his achievement 3 weeks ago.
I'm his dad's younger brother, and we were raised in Bonolevu, but we are thankful today that Semi accepted our invitation to come and see his relatives from Nukunuku in Laos.
Randrandra is not sure whether he would wear the 7th jumper again with the World Cup and Commonwealth Games next year, but for now, he'll just enjoy every moment of this Olympic glory.
A lot of the people, they dream to be in that position. We're so blessed, and to win a gold medal, it's something that I think the boys, especially myself, will cherish forever.
He's supposed to travel to Taviuni, but nothing is confirmed with the restrictions in place, and he may head back to England with his family in 2 weeks' time. Aquila Vama, FBC Sports.
The next generation of Fijiana players will not have to live in fear of stereotypes against women and girls in rugby. Fasonac Chief Executive Lorraine Ma believes this was the bigger goal achieved from the Tokyo Olympics following an historic performance by the Sayasi fully coached side. Taile Materkula reports.
Fijiana's inspiring performance has broken any barrier there was for women's rugby in the country.
I'm sure that every young girl now, having seen this, will say to themselves, I'm sure I can do this as well. And when you think about it, the Fijianas win, it could very well have been a gold and a silver. They were that close, in the semi-finals. So they did extremely, extremely well.
The team has been receiving overwhelming support from the public, and coach Sayasi Fuli says it is something very new to the players.
It's always, negative in the past, and also it depends on the results and what we have emphasized. Grow as a rugby player and produce results.
The Fijiana Sevens team and management are currently serving their 14 days quarantine in Sofitel Resort in Nandi. Tale Materkula, FBC Sports.
Olympian Tevita Takayawa hopes to be a great role model to young Fijian judokas. After his debut at the Tokyo Olympics as the lone judoka representing Fiji, Takayawa believes he has a responsibility to fellow athletes at home. Venina Rakautonga has more.
The 25-year-old believes he has a duty to lead by example as an Olympian.
I have to always lead by example, showing that I know that I'm not in Fiji, but I have to show on my social media platforms that I'm training and always active, so that the other judokas in Fiji could see that and do something about that.
Takayawa says he has learned a lot from Tokyo, going against some of the world's great.
Going into it, I knew that I had to learn a lot, so because this was all new to me, so it was all part of the experience for me to take in everything, so that the next games I'm planning to go to won't be too overwhelming or anything that will catch me off guard.
His brother Nathaniel Takayawa, who also represented Fiji in the 1992, 1996 and 2000 Olympics, say the family is proud of another Takayawa in the Olympic stage.
A great achievement for Tevita, and congratulate him for the hard work that he's put in leading up to the Olympics to qualify and able to compete with the best of the best. It's an amazing, I'm so happy for him, and to reach the pinnacle of sports, competing against the best. What an awesome achievement in itself.
Fiji Judo has never missed out on any Olympic Games since 1984, and the goal is to continue with what has become a norm for the judokas. Venina Rakautonga, FBC Sports.
The Commonwealth Games is next on the table for Team Fiji, with plans already in discussion. Fiji Association of Sports and National Olympic Committee Chief Executive Lorraine Ma says since travel will be costly, they will maintain their strict criteria for teams to qualify. Ma says the men's sevens team have qualified, but they are yet to confirm a spot for the women's sevens team. Ma adds the pending team sports that are yet to confirm availability include hockey, badminton and weightlifting, among a few others.
Everything's gone out to all the sports, and it's now looking at the timelines involved, because the games in Birmingham, it's going to be quite an expensive exercise to get there.
Fiji swimmer Cheyenne Roberts says the unavailability of training facilities during this pandemic is a huge obstacle for many local swimmers. Roberts says this was one of the biggest setbacks during her preparation before the Olympic Games, and she hopes that they are able to get back into the pool soon. The 26-year-old was fortunate enough to have to train and compete in Australia last month.
Having access to a pool or like facilities, you know, it's not like any other sport where you can just use the land and do some running or some throwing. You actually need the water, you need the pool. You know, and we could do it in the ocean and you can get aerobic working, but it's not the same. And
the Boxing Commission of Fiji is optimistic that it'll get back to hosting programs by the end of the year. While the second wave of COVID-19 has drastically affected the sport, the Commission remains hopeful fighters and fans will be able to witness Fiji's top boxers in the square ring again soon. Karleni Tavi reports.
Boxing Commission is working on getting the sport up and running again once things normalize.
We had a program that got shelved. That program will be activated immediately. So, in fact, all these guys that I'm talking to, we are very hopeful that we will have at least 1 to 2 programs before the end of this year. But of course, that all depends on clearance from government.
There's no way the sport can be given the green light to resume.
We exhort all our boxers to get vaccinated because that's the only way that we can get boxing back. All right, it's not going to happen unless and until we have that the threshold that government has set is 80% vaccination.
There is no official date on the resumption of sporting events, but all sporting bodies are working together to get through the pandemic.
There's no date. It's very dependent on us, everybody getting vaccinated. We've got to realise, of course, that sports is also very much for those younger people under the age of 18.
Once clearance is given by government, boxers will have a month to prepare before competition starts. Karleni Tavi, FBC Sports.
That's it from sports tonight, but coming up in Weird and Wonderful, penguins that are missing humans during the pandemic. Find out more after the break.
Fine conditions prevailed over most areas today. In the west, cloudy conditions gave way to the sun. It was mostly humid. Eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, sunny with intervals of cloudiness. In the north, pleasant with a blend of sun and clouds. Locations we are checking out today are Nandi, Navua and Nosori. Navua had the highest humidity at 69%. Moderate to rough seas turning to the tides. The next low tide is at 8:53 tonight with high tide at 3:31. Sunrise is at 6:24. For tomorrow, cloudy periods with some showers over the larger islands. The outlook for Friday, mainly fine with cool conditions. The sunset beautifully captured by James Fayaz from Dangiri Road in Nasinu. In Fijian Pulse, we ask, have you managed to do more savings during the lockdown and why?
They can save money because there are very less unnecessary movements.
Around in the Bambulilam. Yes, I will save more money as no one is moving around without valid reasons.
Yes. See, unnecessary movement won't be there. Just food items. You will need only food item, that's all.
Plenty of people have left. The city, they went back to the village because lack of job. Lockdown, no shops open. Communication is very hard.
And recapping our main stories, West yet to hit a peak, warns Health Ministry. Fiji will bring the change needed, says Prime Minister, and tourism plans laid out. For these stories and others, you can tune in daily to our sister radio station, Gold FM. To our poll question this week, we are asking, should commercial banks relook at lending rates? Visit our FBC News website to take part. And remember, send us newsworthy pictures and videos, fbcnews@fbc.com.fj, or share it with us via our various social media accounts. You can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in news and sports, and listen to our 6 radio stations live. That's your news this evening. I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. Modemanda.